started like it always did. A luxury black sedan pulled up to the curb outside a quiet suburban cafe. The man who stepped out was tall, sharp in a navy suit, with polished shoes and a calm, steady presence. His skin was deep brown, his gaze focused. He tapped the button to lock the car and headed toward the door, briefcase in hand. Then came the sirens. Red and blue lights flashed behind him. Tires screeched as the cruiser pulled up hard to the curb. The man paused. He didn't flinch. He simply turned, slow and measured. Out stepped Officer Bradley. Late 30s, pale, buzz-cut, chewing gum like it owed him money. His hand already hovered near his holster. "Sir, step away from the vehicle." The man raised a brow, puzzled. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Hands where I can see them." "Is there a problem, officer?" The man asked calmly, hands visible, palms open. Bradley's eyes narrowed. "That your car?" "Yes. I just parked it." "Got ID?" The man slowly reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black wallet. He extended it toward the officer. Bradley didn't even glance at it. "No sudden moves. And keep your hands where I can see them." "I just gave you my ID," the man said, still calm. "You haven't looked at it." "I'll decide what I need to look at," Bradley snapped. People were watching now. A woman across the street paused with her latte halfway to her lips. A couple in a pickup truck slowed as they drove past. "Do you have probable cause?" the man asked. "Or is this a case of driving while black?" "That did it." "Turn around. Hands on the hood." "You're making a mistake." "I said hands on the hood." The man did as he was told, briefcase sliding off his wrist and landing gently on the sidewalk. Bradley grabbed his arm roughly and twisted it behind his back. "You got a record?" the cop muttered. "Got that look. All cleaned up, but you ain't fooling me." "You really don't want to do this," the man said quietly. "Oh, but I do." Bradley grinned, tightening the cuffs. "And you're gonna learn real quick. You people don't run this town." The man didn't speak again. He just looked forward, face unreadable, as if he knew something Officer Bradley didn't. And he did, because in less than 24 hours, that same officer would be standing in a conference room, staring in horror across a polished table, right into the eyes of the very man he'd just arrested. But not as a suspect, as the new director of internal affairs. The back seat of the patrol car was ice cold. The cuffs bit into his wrists, metal tight against skin, as the car jolted forward. Officer Bradley didn't say a word. He didn't have to. His smug silence said it all, like he'd already made up his mind about the man sitting behind him. Like he'd done this 100 times before, and never once been wrong. "Nice suit," Bradley finally said, glancing at him in the rear view. "Stolen." The man didn't reply. His eyes stayed fixed out the window, watching the streets blur by. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. "You think not talking makes you smarter?" Bradley said, voice rising. "I've seen your type. Fast talking. Fancy car. Flashy watch. Thinking you're better than the rest of us." A pause. "I don't think I'm better," the man finally said, voice low. "But I know you think I'm worse." Bradley gripped the wheel tighter. "Keep talking. It'll make the paperwork easier." Inside the station, the buzz of phones, footsteps, and clipped conversations filled the air. Officers looked up when Bradley walked in with his catch. Some stared longer than others. "Got this guy cruising in a stolen Benz," Bradley announced to no one in particular. "Wouldn't show me ID. Smart mouth. acting like he's the mayor. He forced the man forward, down the hallway, past desks, past detectives, past a bulletin board where his own photo would one day hang, when the truth came out. At the fingerprint station, Officer Ruiz, mid-40s, Latina, sharp eyes that missed nothing, paused mid-task. "You sure about this?" she asked under her breath. "Positive," Bradley snapped. "Guy was acting shady. Knew something was off the second I saw him." Ruiz glanced at the man. He looked right back at her. 1 second. 2. Her brow twitched, like something clicked. "Okay," she said softly. "If you say so." They placed him in the holding cell. Cuffs off. Door locked. He sat down, slow and calm, like a man who'd been here before. But something about his composure, it wasn't fear. It was control. Bradley stood outside the bars, arms crossed. "Hope you're comfy," he said. "It's gonna be a long night." "Not for me," the man replied without looking up. "For you." Bradley laughed. "Yeah? You planning a breakout?" "No," he said, finally meeting the officer's eyes. "But tomorrow morning your world changes. You just don't know it yet." The tension hit the room like a pressure drop. The kind of silence that makes even seasoned cops check their gut. And somewhere deep inside, Officer Bradley felt it for the first time. Doubt. The next morning, Officer Bradley swaggered into the station like a man who'd done a public service. Coffee in one hand, the same smug grin on his face. He didn't notice the side eyes. Or maybe he did and didn't care. But Ruiz was already at her desk. And she wasn't smiling. "Did you ever actually run his ID?" she asked, not looking up. Bradley scoffed. "I don't need a database to tell me when someone's trouble. I've got instincts." "You mean bias," she muttered. He froze. "What did you say?" "I said," she repeated louder. "Maybe you should check the system before this one blows up in your face." Bradley set his coffee down with a loud thunk. He strode to the computer, fingers tapping the keyboard harder than necessary. He typed in the name from the wallet he hadn't bothered to examine yesterday. Then paused. His brows pulled tight. "No way," he whispered. Every detail lined up. Education. Federal clearance level. Active badge. Internal affairs. A director. Transferred in 2 weeks ago. Bradley stepped back from the screen like it burned him. He spun on his heel, heading straight for the holding cells, breath short, palms sweating. But when he got there, cell 4 was empty. "Where is he?" he barked. Ruiz barely looked up. "Released an hour ago. You were too busy bragging in the locker room." Bradley's stomach twisted. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He picked up. "Officer Bradley." Came the voice, calm, smooth, familiar. "I believe we need to talk." It was him. The same man he'd handcuffed. Now speaking like he owned the air. "Meet me in conference room B. 10 minutes. The line went dead. Bradley's heart pounded like a war drum. He ran his fingers through his hair. His skin was hot. He turned slowly, walked stiffly down the hallway that now felt longer than ever. At the glass door he paused. Inside stood 2 lieutenants, a major, and at the head of the table him. Same suit, same calm, but now eyes sharper, voice colder. "Officer Bradley," the man said. "Please have a seat." Bradley sat. No one smiled. "Yesterday," the man began, "you racially profiled, detained, and humiliated a federal officer without cause. You ignored ID, denied protocol, and attempted to fabricate probable cause." Bradley opened his mouth, But the man held up a hand. "I wasn't undercover," he continued. "Not then. But I am now." Bradley's throat tightened. "I'm here to investigate this department. From the inside. Starting with you." The silence was suffocating. "But," Bradley choked, "I didn't know." "And that's the problem," the man said, eyes locked on him. "You didn't care to know." The door opened. Another officer stepped in, holding a folder thick with complaint reports. Bradley recognized it. Internal complaints. Use of force. Racial profiling. His name on every third page. The man stood slowly. "This isn't just about yesterday. This is about a pattern. Culture. One you've helped create." Bradley couldn't breathe. "I'll be conducting interviews with your colleagues," the man said, stepping past him, "and reviewing footage from body cams, including the one you conveniently forgot to activate yesterday." He stopped at the door. "One more thing," he said without turning around. "You're suspended. Effective immediately. Internal review begins now." Bradley stood, stunned. "Wait, you can't do this." The man finally turned, his gaze like steel. "I already did." Word spread like wildfire through the station. Whispers in the locker room. Glances over coffee cups. People who used to nod at Bradley now looked away. And Ruiz? She smiled for the first time in weeks. In the days that followed, the man moved through the building like a shadow. Quiet. Watching. Listening. Every officer suddenly remembered policy. Every file was double-checked. Every report written with trembling hands. But the real storm was still coming. Because buried in the files on page 112 of a sealed report was a name. A boy. Unarmed. Teen. Traffic stop. No charges. But he never made it home. The officer listed? Bradley. The man stared at the file for a long time, then closed it. This was never about one bad stop. This was about systemic rot. And he wasn't here for damage control. He was here for reckoning. The station felt colder, quieter. The man, now called by his real name, Director Langston Pierce, moved through the halls like a ghost everyone could see but no one dared speak to. His presence didn't just demand respect. It demanded truth. Every morning started the same. A closed-door meeting. A stack of files. And one officer called in. Some came out shaking. Some didn't come out for hours. One didn't come out at all. Sergeant Lewis, a 17-year veteran, had always laughed loudest at racist jokes. Thought body cams were optional. On day 4, after his interview with Pierce, he cleared out his desk without a word. No goodbye. Just vanished. Bradley watched it all unfold from the sidelines. Technically suspended, but refusing to stay home. He came in every day, pacing, pretending he still mattered. But everyone could see it. He was unraveling. He cornered Ruiz by the coffee machine. "This is a witch hunt," he hissed. Ruiz sipped calmly. "Witches don't usually carry badge numbers and body cam footage." Bradley's jaw tightened. "He's trying to burn us all down. Maybe some things need to burn." Pierce found the file late one night. A dusty box tucked in the back of records. Case closed. No follow-up. But the timestamp on the footage told a different story. The boy, 18, scared, hands raised, had begged. "I just want to go home," he'd said. Bradley had shouted, lunged. The footage stopped before the shot. But the sound played loud and clear. One bullet. Pierce sat in silence for a long time. The next day he asked to see the mother. She came in wearing the same sweatshirt from the last court hearing. Eyes tired. Voice soft. She didn't ask for money, didn't ask for revenge. Just one question. Why? Pierce didn't have an answer. Not yet. He gave her the footage. She watched it with shaking hands. Tears slipped down her cheeks without sound. When it ended, she whispered, "Do what you have to do." That afternoon, Pierce called a press conference. He didn't wear a uniform. He didn't need one. The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. But he spoke clear and slow. "There has been a pattern of unchecked abuse in this department. It ends now." He didn't name names. He didn't have to. Bradley watched from home, his face pale, sweat on his temples. He grabbed his phone, dialed fast. "Get me the union rep," he barked. "Now." But the voice on the other end said something he hadn't expected. "They're not protecting you anymore." Pierce began holding public town halls. One by one, civilians came forward. Stories poured out like water from a broken dam. Stops, searches, humiliations, all from the same handful of officers. One name kept surfacing. Bradley. The department was split. Some officers sided with Pierce, quietly at first, then openly. Others doubled down, calling him a traitor. But even they stopped short when Internal Affairs pulled 2 more officers off the floor. One for falsifying reports, the other for planting evidence. It was no longer about politics. It was survival. Late one night, Pierce stood in the empty precinct lobby, staring at the memorial wall. Badges and photos. Heroes lost in the line of duty. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a photo. The boy. He pinned it on the wall, not as a fallen officer, but as a reminder. A janitor passing by paused, looked at the photo, then at Pierce. "You knew him?" Pierce nodded. "No, but I should have." Bradley showed up at the station one last time. Not in uniform, not in control. Just a man, tired, exposed, and finally silent. He walked past the desk where he used to bark orders, past the rookie officers who once mimicked his swagger and now looked away. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to face it. Pierce waited in the interview room, back straight, eyes steady. There was no triumph in his expression, only purpose. Bradley sat across from him without a word. Pierce slid a folder across the table. Inside, a signed confession. Not just for the stop, but for the cover-ups, the misconduct, the years of quiet violence behind a badge. Bradley's hand trembled as he picked up the pen. He didn't ask for a deal. He signed. And in that moment, something shifted, not just in the room, but in the air. In the city. Pierce watched him go. No handcuffs this time. Just gravity. The news broke within the hour. A decorated officer exposed. A department shaken. And a system forced for once to look itself in the mirror. But the headlines weren't what mattered. What mattered were the people. The mother who buried her son and finally heard the word accountability. The rookie who stopped laughing at cruel jokes and started reporting them. The officers who realized silence was complicity and began to speak up. And Ruiz, who walked into Pierce's office and said 6 words, "I want to be like you." Pierce smiled, but only a little. "This work's not clean," he said. "It's hard. It'll cost you." She didn't blink. "Good. Then I know it's worth it." Weeks later, Pierce stood on the courthouse steps. Reporters shouted. Cameras flashed. But he wasn't there for the spotlight. He was there for the story. Not Bradley's. There's the story of how the system almost swallowed the truth, until someone forced it to choke on it instead. He watched the courthouse doors open and saw Bradley being led away in cuffs. This time not by a fellow officer, but by the same justice he used to twist. Pierce watched closely. His posture was different now. The arrogance was gone. His expression wasn't amused anymore. It was something else, something closer to reflection. He hadn't expected this case to be anything more than another day. Another bad cop. Another internal review buried in red tape. But now he knew he'd remember this one. Because Bradley had done something most people never could. He made the system look at itself. And for once, it blinked first. Here's the part that matters most. How many others had it missed? How many men were stopped not because they were guilty, but because of skin color? How many complaints were ignored because the uniform mattered more than the truth? Pierce had the rank to fight back. But what about the ones who didn't? This wasn't just about one precinct, one officer, one mistake. It was about all of them. He knew what he had to do next. This wasn't the last department he'd investigate. It wouldn't be the last injustice he faced. But maybe, if he kept going, it would be the last one that got away with it. And when that day came, he wouldn't be standing alone. If this story made you stop, even for a second, then share it. Because justice systems are built on laws. But they're run by people. And people, they can change. But only if we make them. So share the story. Because next time, it might not be Langston Pierce. It might be someone you know, and they'll need us to pay attention.